Hi all, let's have a look at another fascinating Magnus Carlsen game today. This is against Veselin Topalov. It was played in the Grand Chess Tour Côte d'Ivoire tournament, which had two elements, a rapid element, rapid time control, and blitz time control. Now this is one of the later rounds, round 13, played on May the 12th, and it was a 5-minute with 3-second delay blitz game. So Topalov playing white, kicked off with e4, Magnus goes for the Sicilian defense, and we have this knight c6, which is a prelude here to the Sicilian Sveshnikov, one of my favourite openings. When I was a youngster, I used to love this position, the dynamic imbalances that are created. We see here bishop g5. Magnus has a lot of experience in the World Championship with knight d5 as well. Of course, this is another variation, but we didn't see that here. So we see this old classical line, bishop g5, which is what I was more used to, a6, knight a3, b5, so threatening b4. This is all theory. Bishop takes. Another major alternative is knight d5 here, but bishop takes was played, doubling black's pawns. Bishop g7. An alternative for Sveshnikov fans is f5. For example, this continuation has been seen a lot before, with roughly equal chances, but bishop g7 is valid. Of course, c3, f5 now, e takes, bishop takes, knight c2, so the knight's rerouting for that nice e3 square. Pretty thematic for both sides so far. Bishop d3, f5, white castles, e4. Now this is pretty committal. It does give black the e5 square. Black's trump cards include the g-file and the use of this outpost square that can sometimes be used to celebrate the extra dart square bishop without counterpart. So the bishop pair, and especially the dart squares, should be celebrated by black. In theory, we see knight f4, so threatening to fork queen and rook. So e takes is not really possible. The bishop drops back. And you'll note here, after bishop c2, f5 is under fire. Magnus is pretty chilled out about it. So what's the reason here? Well, first he can actually gain a tempo anyway on the knight on f4. That moves, and again, isn't there a threat of knight takes f5? You might wonder. In fact, and f4 might actually lead to an issue like knight g4. In fact, here, Magnus just lets the f5 pawn go. He's working with his g-file. It's a great intuitive thing to do. So king h8, really interesting. Now, in this position, white plays f4, which is a really powerful move in its own right. The more materialistic knight takes f5, this is interesting. After bishop takes, queen takes, this knight's hanging, so this makes this actually a viable continuation for white. d5, this is a very interesting continuation here, where queen takes d5 is not possible because the bishop takes h2. Let's just put that on the board just to show winning the queen there. So if we have this position, though, white can play calmly and should be have the better chances overall, but it is an opposite colour bishop scenario. These pawns seem a little bit fragile. So this does seem possible to have played knight takes f5, but f4 has got a lot going for it as well. We see e takes f3. The alternatives don't look too good here. If bishop g7, then this is under more favourable circumstances to take on f5, with black having no pivot on e5 now, that f4 pawn there. And if this, to try and win d5, white ends up being significantly better here. So, and it's not opposite colour bishops either. So yeah, this is a very interesting move. On bishop f6 again, knight takes f5. So e takes was played, and of course this fragments black's pawn chain. It looks a bit horrendous in a way, but black does have the bishop pair, the bishop without a counterpart, and g-file to play with. So f5 looks really weak. Magnus gives up his bishop pair. He's really just working on the dart squares now. So as we see from Leela games, when you give up a bishop of a certain colour, you usually want to work on the other colour. And here, there's a direct attack now on h2. Now here, g3 was played, rook g8, pinning that pawn, and threatening bishop takes g3. That's parried with knight f4. So if bishop takes f5 here, then bishop takes g3 is horrendous. For example, check, and h5 wins material there. So knight f4 for the moment, queen h6. Now bishop takes f5 was played here. This is an interesting moment actually, where you can see that this knight's also hanging as well. There's a lot of pressure on both sides. It's like a Mad Magazine spy versus spy, because black's on the dark squares, white's on the light squares. Now this does seem a kind of logical and materialistic, but bishop b3, the engines really like bishop b3 here. Because it actually makes, potentially, if this rook lifts off the first rank, then queen takes c6 hits the a8 rook. So for example, this bang hitting the a8 rook is a disaster. So this is a really tricky move, bishop b3, but it's a blitz game, of course, so it wasn't found. If bishop takes f4, then this position leads to an endgame, which seems, you know, white's really quite comfortable there. And also here, if rook g5, again, it's a comfortable ending for white. White's got the better chances, but it's a blitz game, and white could even lose on time layer. It's potentially, it's all the time pressure to factor in. It's not like a checkmate or anything. So bishop takes f5. This gives black, it seems, very strong play now after rook a f8, and white goes disastrously wrong now with knight e6. The last chance to try and maintain the position is actually to go knight g2 to shield this g file, basically. Knight g2, let's put that on the board. So say knight e7. This should be okay. White's got a small edge, but black's got some dark square play there, clearly, with that bishop without a counterpart. So it should be okay for white. But in the game, bishop takes f5, rook a f8, and now this disastrous move, knight e6. So why is this a disaster? Black to play here. I wonder if you can guess what Magnus plays in this position. Okay, 5 seconds. Okay, bishop takes g3 was played, so that threatens checkmate. Rook f6 also is, it seems quite good for black as well, by the way. After queen g2, this check, this is horrendous for white. So that was also strong. If queen takes there, bishop takes here is crushing. For example, like this. But bishop takes g3 here, h takes, and now the point is to get the queen. You want to get the queen away from g3, so black to play here. It really works well in this configuration. So even after the dark square bishop is gone, it seems strangely white has the worst of the dark square consequences coming up now after the departure of the dark square bishop. So black to play here if I give you 5 seconds. Okay, rook takes f5, so leaving the knight hanging as well as trying to deflect the queen from g3. So we have queen takes, and after rook takes g3, white had to resign. It's a very, very cruel position, because if king f2, then there's queen e3, which happens to be, in this configuration, checkmate. Yeah, this is absolutely devastating. And if the queen goes there, then knight e5 hits the queen with the same mechanism. So just wins the queen with a big advantage. So where does the queen actually go? It's pretty horrendous. Otherwise, queen takes e6 if, say, queen g2. Yeah, it's just a really horrendous position. Or queen e3 check. So this is absolutely crushing. Yeah, this could have been the final position. So yeah, another very interesting game from Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces there. So that was at the Grand Chess Tour, showing actually how lethal Magnus is on the faster time limits. It seems also even in bullet chess, Magnus is absolutely brilliant. So it's his relative intuition to other grandmasters seems really amazing, and fast calculation skills to support that. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Please check out the bit.ly link up there if you want to register at chessworld.net, my site. And there's lots of analysis in the Improve, Learn from the Masters of many of these YouTube videos, and there's puzzle books, etc. Okay, thanks very much.